Bassa, and I said, look, Liberia is not even listed amongst Liberian higher educational institutions, are not even listed amongst the best higher educational institutions in West Africa, let alone Africa. It's a serious challenge. But nobody have to actually go to the University of Liberia. We say we have a free tuition program. But that free tuition program, we don't have a lab. There is no, the benches in the classroom are insufficient. The classrooms are nothing to write home about. They don't even look tidy. Then also, we don't even have a program where, for example, in other schools, like I went to school abroad, if you attempt a course twice, and fail, you can attempt it again. Here in Liberia, you can attempt it forever. One of my friends teaching, because I was trying to see how I could help, and I asked him, what's the rate of, what's the number of times you can attempt? He said forever. So he said he got into the class. There's a woman that was in the class who had been there for about 6 years. She was just in the class failing the course. At that time, her daughter was just entering LU. And then her daughter had met her in the class. Now her daughter was senior and she stayed in the class. So I said, what did you do? He said, my friend, I just watered down the test, give it to her so she can pass it. I push her out. But she is a graduate. She will carry that degree and say, I graduated from the university. These are the kinds of things we're having. You remember when the University of Liberia decided to really give a proper test in 2016, what happened? 25,000 students from high school failed government exam. But there's a report. Every country in the world, and the World Bank did that, where you have free public education, the quality of that education is poor. I don't know, you saw that report. Huh? You saw it. So I can show you that. So it didn't just do it for Liberia, it did it in many countries, you know, where you have free public education. And the World Bank was suggesting that government increase or spend on education in different, because typically, if you say I'm paying University of Liberia students tuition, the probability of you not, so you think that the only expense they have is teacher salary and those kinds of things. But they were using that tuition for many other kinds of capacitation. They could plan their own budget. And many times there is a shortfall in what is allotted versus what is provided. So under my leadership, I want to look at it differently. Education. I want to look at university education where, in many respects, we will invest significantly in education. Look, the other day I was in one African country. And this is not the capital city. This is like I was like 200 miles away from the capital. I went to the people university there. I stood there, I was shaking my head, and the man said, what happened, sir? I said, nothing. I couldn't talk. 200 miles away, like you drive to what? Maybe Saclay or so, I think 200 miles, or Campley. Right.
Tapeta or Campley area.
Mr. Jackson, we're talking about more than 100 acres of land, a massive campus these guys invested in. So in every respect, we are joking with education. I went to the people lab, I was surprised. They take education seriously, and it's an African country. But in our case, we take these things for joke. We think everything is politics. And people are walking out of university. And that's why when institutions come here, it makes it difficult for them to hire our students, our graduates. Then we say, oh no, the people don't want to hire our graduates. So in every respect, what I want to do is to invest so massively in education. Then the other thing I want to do is to take STEM seriously. And to this end, what I want to do for education is to privatize it.
Privatize it?
Yes. So it's still going to be free entry, but it will be publicly funded, but privately run. So how do I want to do it? One, take the schools in Bombing. I want to set up the Bombing County educational system, which will be privately run and owned. So we take it, we give it to 3 people that will own it. The Ministry of Education will be a small institution, which will only be a regulator. Don't forget, this system we've had it for the last 100 and something years. It's never where we had county education officer, district education officer. You send one computer, the DEO take his own, the DEO take his own. You go to the school, you can see it, you go ask, it's a whole black hole. You have to spend time now investigating. We privately run the thing. So we take it, we give it to private people. What are we going to do? we're going to introduce a new specialized tax called the National Education Tax. The National Education Tax may be 0. Whatever percent of your salary, but it's going to be pegged to income tax. We're going to put it on the corporate register, so maybe corporations will also pay maybe 2% of that tax, and we'll also make it part of our sales infrastructure. So everything you buy, you pay for education. Like you see in Ghana, they have payment for health. Everything you buy, they also tie the nail. They call it National Health Insurance Tax. So what we want to do is when we come out with that education tax, that's the money we use. We give it to the guys. So, for example, we agree with the schools, right? We say ABC, from ABC to 6th grade, the tuition, for example, is $200, right? We have a simple audit system to verify how many students exist in Bombing County, right? Once we have that, we know how much money per quarter to pay to the administration. And we set the standard. We want you to have computer per class. We want you to have this. So all I have to do living in Bombing County is to send my children to the school, buy my uniform, but the quality of education will be different. When I was in school, I don't know how many years ago, we're using Blackboard and Duster. Today, even though technology have improved, those days we're not using telephone. Today we're using mobile phone, all kinds of mobile phone. We're still using duster, still using crayon, still polluting the children's nose and all those kinds of things. We can change that. So we set the standard where we say we want electronic board, we want computer per student, because now we've agreed with a school fee type that gives you the resources. So that create competition where each of the different 15 school systems, if you run your school system good, you could buy our Bombing school system. So let's say Bon County runs a school system which is a private management, they can buy our Magibi, so Bon County school system can spread to maybe 6, 7 counties like you see in the private sector. But they will be privately funded and I mean publicly funded, privately run, but government takes its hand away from it and only become a regulator of the sector. So in that way, it helps our educational system to compete, and then government can set standards. So we don't have to be paying public teachers. So what we can then do is we will encourage a collaboration where the teacher training arrangement will be structured by the various schools. So instead of one system running it, they will all have a resource amalgamation where they support the teacher training institution. The reason why I came out with that idea is because the USAID came out with a study that says 30% of the teachers teaching schools across this country are high school dropouts. Another 40% are high school graduates. It's a pity. And when you go to rural Liberia, the study also showed that the child is supposed to have, how many? I think about minimum 6 to 8 hours of school per day. But it says in rural Liberia, the guys were having access to about 2 hours of school per day. The report was very graphic. I can share those reports with you guys. It even said that some of the teachers were using the students to clear the farm. And some of the teachers will leave and come to Monrovia for pay or go and get the pay. Sometimes they will stay 2 weeks and there is no school for those students. And the burden was going back on to the parents. Some of those things are even happening here in Monrovia.
How will you treat the health sector differently?
Oh, the health sector.